Hello and welcome back to Creepy Cutie Crafty. Welcome back to yet another crafting video with me, Heather. Hi guys, how are you doing this week? So yes, this week we're back with another Friday Fabric Fumble, and I'm continuing with these patchwork sort of crazy quilted stockings. Now, the eagle-eyed amongst you can probably see this is the one that I did last week, and I haven't actually added anything to it yet. The reason for that was I went down south to visit my parents, and my niece and nephew are down there, so I thought I didn't want to spoil the surprise. I'm going to leave it here to do when I come home. Instead I took down my birds and fishes project, and I stitched down a couple more fishes, and yes, I'm going to come back to this today. Now, before I get into the sewing of this part and adding the patches to this part, I will show you something that I picked up whilst I was down south. The idea for this video is I'm going to show you some bits and pieces that I've got, and then maybe use those bits and pieces in these stockings. So I'm just going to fold this up and hide it away just for the moment, and I've got my second set of stockings just there waiting to go. Now, when I went down south, there's quite a nice sort of garden centre off of the motorway next to Swindon, which is the area where my parents lived, in the middle of Wiltshire, and it's kind of a little sort of bougie area, very sort of fancy area. So you have people who are a little bit snobbish sometimes, but on the whole, people are lovely. So we went to this garden centre, and I cannot remember the name of it for my life, but if I can remember to find it, I'll put the name up here on the screen. And in the garden centre, there's like a little butterfly farm, so you can go and have a look at all the butterflies flying around and look at some animals and bits and pieces like that. But also there's sort of a crafty area where you can go and meet various local crafters and local craft suppliers, and you can get to know, like, you know, people in the area who are doing similar crafts to you. So there's like little sort of units, one of which was on like wood turning, one of which was on things like the World of Warcraft, so painting figures for games like that. Not World of Warcraft, Warhammer, that's the one I'm thinking of. But also there was a couple of the small units right next to each other, one of which was a crochet unit where they can learn to do crochet, or you can have like a little meeting area where people gather to do pattern testing and things. And I had a look in there. It looks very interesting, but as you know, I am not yet a crocheter because I am not that way inclined. I might be soon, but we'll see how we go. But the other one was a quilting unit, so they had like a little room filled with sewing machines that you could go and meet and do lessons and things like that with. And right next door there was this shop, and I'll put a little video on the screen here so you can see what I'm talking about. And basically in that shop they sell all sorts of quilting supplies, so different fabrics, different glue pens, templates. They had lots of patterns as well, which were very, very tempting, but I didn't go for one this time. However, they are quite seasonal, and they had some lovely seasonal fabrics there. One of the first ones I saw was a sort of Christmas tree made with poinsettias, but that was more of a sort of a finished thing that you could use as a wall hanging, but I wasn't so interested in that. But I had a look at their other fabrics, and yeah, I may have picked up a couple of fat quarters. They had like the proper like rolls of fabric as well on the wall, but I had a look at some of the fat quarters. So I'll just do you a quick haul video. And yeah, you can see I did pick up a few things. So before I get into that one, first of all, there was like a dollhouse area where you can find bits and pieces for your dollhouse, and I picked up a little black rabbit just there. This is the Studley Grange dollhouse shop over at the garden centre, and I am thinking about having a go at doing some dollhouse type things in the future, but we'll see about that. The other place I went into was Marlborough, which is very close to where my parents live, and I went to the Oxfam there, and they've got some lovely recycled sari twine, which I thought could be interesting for some of the projects that I've got coming up. And you can see they haven't even used wood there. They've used like old newspapers or old magazines as the centre of their rolls, which I think is really interesting, making sure there's no waste. And of course, they've got some beautiful handmade embroidered cards, which I thought looked lovely. and the fabric, the card is really lovely and thick. But yeah, if you want to know about them, there's the shop, the Oxfam, and there's their QR code, and they're doing these things to try and help bring fair trade to people who are making these things but not getting the credit for it. And then finally, I have the company that was in the garden centre. There we go, Studley Grange Garden Centre. That's where it was that I went to, just south of Swindon, and you got all these things that you can have a go at. And I love the fact that they've got these cards, the business cards, and they've got measurements in centimetres and inches along the side, so that's very, very handy. And this is the company that had the shop, so-and-so, little so-and-so, and you can get like stamps for every time you purchase some fabric, and for every 10 meters you will get a meter free. I didn't purchase by the meter, I purchased by the fat quarter, so maybe that's a little bit different, I don't know. Or maybe I was just talking too much about quilting, I don't know. Anyway, look those guys up, because they are very interesting, especially if you're in that part of the country. And it's always fascinating to find other people who are into the same craft as you, isn't it? I also found myself some fabric glue pens, which I've been looking for a while. I know you can do it with, what's the name? Yoo-hoo glue, but I think I prefer the pens. It's just personal taste. And then finally, the pièce de résistance, for me anyway, we've got some fabrics here. Some refills for the glue pen, so I'll put that over there. So let's have a quick looky at these. So we've got this nice sort of basic pattern, lovely rich autumnal early winter colours there, and then we've got some candy cane prints just there, which I think is nice. That could be nice for like a the roof of a fabric house, couldn't it? Like a gingerbread house. That could be quite interesting. Some dark stars, which again, I think that's Christmassy because we're looking at stars in the sky, aren't we? And then we've got these beautiful sort of basic organic prints here with holly and ivy and things growing like that. We've got something a bit more graphic, so we've got some Christmas puddings and gingerbread men and presents and stockings and all sorts of things. But that's quite a nice little thing, and I wasn't worried about getting too much of any of these because obviously it's going to be patchwork, isn't it? And then we've got something that's sort of like a Christmas tree or fir trees. It looks a little bit like bracken, so you could also use that in spring as a bracken type of pattern. And then we've got some lovely gold swirlies, lovely beautiful rich colours there, and some Christmas decorations. The print on this isn't so great, but I think the colours overall look lovely. And again, you've got some more of the swirly pattern there. Again, beautiful rich fabric there, and some more stars, some gold stars and red stars on the green. Again, beautiful colours. Some holly, again with a bit of sparkle on it. And then finally we've got this. Now this is a much paler one, and I'm thinking about using this for another project, or possibly using this as the turnover. So if I find, where is it? This here. So you've got the stocking, and at the top you've got the turnover. I was thinking of maybe using something like that for the turnover, or some fake fur. I don't know yet. I haven't got to that point yet, but we shall see when we get there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear this all up, and I'm going to use some of these onto the second half of the stocking that you saw earlier, and I might switch out some of the fabrics that are on here already. So I don't know yet, because I've got all these fabrics on here, and I'm not sure if I want to keep them. I think I will keep them on this side because we've got quite a few Christmassy style fabrics here already. But for the next one, I'm going to use some of the new fabrics, the new quilting patches, and we'll see how we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause it there. I'm going to go and sort those out, and then I'll come back in a bit when I'm ready to start sewing. So I'll see you in a bit. Bye bye. Okay, so I'm back. I've got this all laid out. I really love some of these fabrics and how they work with each other. It gives a really lovely rich feel. Now, as I said earlier, I think I said earlier anyway, the reason why I hadn't started the stitching was because last weekend I went down to visit my parents, they in Sèvres, and whilst I was down there, obviously I saw my niece and nephew, so I didn't want to take these down there and spoil the surprise. If you remember last week, I had to do my videoing very, very early in the week because of stuff happening. But now it's time to get on with it. So, what shall I start with? Shall I start with finding a needle? That's a good idea, I think. So let's get my things out of there. I've got some ribbon there if I want to use it as well. Let's have a look. Oh, actually, there's a needle right there that I can use. So I think I might use that one. That's the one I used to do the chicken scratch with. So I'm going to park that just over there. Of course, you guys will remind me it's there, won't you? Right, so I think I'm going to start with... I don't know. What should I start with? Like I say, I never really plan these things, so it's kind of difficult to think about what I'm going to do. So I've got lots of greens and reds. Shall I come in with some icy blues? I think I'm going to come up with a little bit of an icy blue. I'll go with this little icy blue over here. I think that could be quite nice. What do we think? I'm only going to be using 2 strands, I think, this time, because I want to have the fabric as the star of the show, not the stitching. There is going to be a little bit of fancy stitching because, you know, I'm me, but I'm going to be only keeping it to a minimum, but we'll see. So it's got quite a large amount on here, so 2 stitches, 2 strands should be quite good. And as I say, I am going to do some decorative stitching as well, but I'm thinking of just doing things like a few little holly leaves or things like that. I'm not going to do anything too fandangly. Again, my favourite made up word. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 strands there. You can see I've done this previously because it's already separated. Got 2 strands there, so I'm going to separate those 2 out. Do my usual thing of using the gravity to try and separate them. Ooh. I do find this method works best for me. It's one I kind of made up as I went along, sort of separating them out and then raising it up and letting gravity help with splitting them apart. There we go, and they can untwist on their own time. So that's the 4 strands on that side, so I'm going to wind that round so I can use it the next time. It's getting towards the end of August and it's still very, very summery here. It's kind of crazy. Normally by this time of year, the skies start to get darker and it starts to get cooler and all this sort of stuff. But it's still uncomfortably warm, which, as I've mentioned many times, I am not a warm weather person. But it's persisting. And I don't really like it because it means you can't really get anything done. Now, where did I put my needle? Over there, right where I left it. And, oh, that is a broken needle threader. Okay, so I'll put that over there and get my spur needle threader out of here. And these ones are a little bit cheaper, but they hopefully I'll be able to make them last a little bit of time. And it's all stuck inside there as well. That's weird. Let's see what I can do here. Yeah. There we go. Ooh, that's weird stuff. Anyway, put that over there with my little pile of rubbish now. Get my needle again and take another stab at it, or take a go at it. I'm trying to think of what kinds of patterns and stitches I want to use. I know I want to use some like chain stitches. Part of the reason I'm using 2 strands is because I want to do a nice delicate fine chain stitch, and I think I'm going to do that going around here just to, you know, bring it all together. But we shall see. Right then, so let's get that all untwisted there. Get a knot in the end. There we go. leather finger, leather thumb, blah, 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 leather thimble on. I'm going to, before I do anything there, this bit here is a little bit loose. I'm going to put another pin in there just so I don't get it all warped out of the way, which is not ideal. So let's get that on. Oops, daisy. There. The one thing I don't want it to wind up looking like is all warped and jiggly around the edges. I want to keep it nice and straight as much as I can, just so I can keep it looking as tidy and as professional as possible. As professional as I'll do anyway. As you know, I don't really do professional. I go more for Heath Robinson, which, you know, it works for me. But I do like it. Also, having done some chicken scratch recently, I've got some ideas for future projects, and one hopefully I might be doing around Halloween. I've got my my child's waistcoat that they want me to make. I'm going to get started on that as soon as I finish with this one, but I'll also be starting some new projects as well, because you want to mix it up a little bit. Well, I want to mix it up a little bit, otherwise I'm going to wind up getting bored. And I've also still got to finish off the birds and fishes thing. Like I say, I took it down south to do, and I've got another couple of fishes done, but hopefully I'll be working on that a little bit more in whatever spare time I get. And once Squinks goes back to school, which is in about a week and a half, I'll be getting back on with it, you know, and see how we go. I've done quite a long one for the first stitch. I might do 2 rows of stitches, I think, because I want to make sure it's nice and secure. I don't want it to come undone, because that would not be a happy time, would it? There we go. Just a simple chain stitch, and I'll try not to stick to the one thing too much today. I might do quite a bit of this off screen, obviously, because you don't want to see me doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, because I don't want to bore you. But we'll see how we go. I'm trying to use the edge of the hem there as a guideline, so I can get it looking nice and straight. And it's trying to catch on this pin, so I'm going to put that over here somewhere, and then back on with it. So yeah, what's the weather doing where you guys are now? It seems to be a little bit cray-cray around here at the moment. It's been a long time since we've had a heat wave, or a series of heat waves like this, and it is extraordinarily hot for such a cool-blooded country as England is. And as I say, I went down to my parents on the weekend, and whilst we were down there, my mother was preferring to us quite a lot of green gauges. If you don't know what they are, they're like green plums. They're very sweet, but she was saying that they'd had quite a glut, and I've noticed that quite a bit actually in the last couple of weeks. There's been quite a lot of bramble bushes, heavy with fruit, and there's been a lot of other bits and pieces like that happening, like around this area, which is, it's good, but at the same time you don't want too much of a glut, because then it makes a mess, you know. And in the village where my mum lives, quite often they'll put like signs out on the front of the cottages and things, sort of saying please take if you want some, because they've got in their garden, they've got a green gauge bush, and they've got a cooking apple tree, yeah, so they've had quite a lot of both of those this year. So in the front of their house, they've got a bucket on the driveway, and people driving past or walking past, they can say, oh, that's some apples, I can go and grab some, because there's far, far, far too much for one very small house of 2 people to have. There's only so many apple pies and apple crumbles and things that you can make, but you know, that's just how it is. And yeah, yeah, it's not so bad if you're going to go foraging and things, but again, you have to be careful about what you're picking and what you're trying out. It was quite interesting because we went to, where did we go to? It was somewhere that was a country house or country area, where the kids could, where was it? I think it might be in last week. Yeah, oh yeah, it was at the Museum of Childhood, Shugborough Hall. I showed you some photographs of that last week, I think. If I didn't, I'll post some here. But they have an awful lot of kids coming there for for playtime, for some holidays, things like that. And they've got these beautiful big gardens, and the house is just, it's crazy. Like I say, I'll post some pictures of the house, the inside of the house. You can see the amazing ceiling art and the carving, the stone carving on the stairs, all these kinds of things. And outside, the garden is huge. It's onto a lake, but there's lots of very pretty bushes with flowers and things growing on them, but some of them have berries on them, and they have big signs in front of the bushes saying, please do not eat these, they are poisonous, do not let your children pick them, which tells me that there's a chance that some kid has probably done that in the past and come a cropper, which is not ideal. But yeah, don't go picking berries unless you know absolutely that they are safe. And even more so if you go picking mushrooms, because when they're not safe, they're very not safe, aren't they? So yeah, maybe just leave it to the professionals. But whether you've got brambles and blackberries and other things like that, it's not so dangerous. But yes, I mean, we Brits, we kind of do love our berry bushes and things like that. It's quite interesting because, I mean, I was looking at some videos about the history of black currants, and why black currants aren't quite so much of a thing over in America. And the you know, the issue was that some of the blackcurrant bushes had diseases that would carry on to other fruits and other you know, trees and things like that. But rather than focusing on blackberries or blackcurrants, rather, they focused on grapes instead. So you guys over there in the USA don't get the joy of knowing Ribena. And Ribena is a very sugary drink here in the UK that's made with blackcurrants. We really do like it. I mean, I unfortunately cannot drink it anymore because it's very sugary and not altogether good if you're trying to avoid diabetes, but it is very yum. Right, so I've got myself caught up there. What have I got myself caught up on? Ah, there we go. Is that going to go through? Yes, there we go. And oopsie daisy, it's still catching on something. What's it catching on? Oh, it's separated, that's why. Why have you separated? Oh, no, you haven't separated. What are you doing? This is a confusing one. Oh, I see. There's a little knot there that's on only one strand. And it's catching up the other one. There we go. That's better. There we are. But yes. So yeah, I mean, if you are in the UK, I do recommend going down to Marlborough and to some areas around Swindon in Wiltshire. It's a lovely, lovely part of the country, but it is not cheap to go and visit because all the hotels know that it's a lovely part of the country, so they charge a lot more money, which, you know, if you can, why not? But there are some very, very snooty people in and around the Marlborough area. So I've mentioned this before. You get an odd mix of really nice, really friendly, really helpful people who, you know, live in the local villages and things, and, you know, they'll chat to you and they'll say good morning as you go down the street, even if you don't know them, which is a very weird thing to do. We don't do that in cities, but in the middle of the countryside, apparently, we do. But when we were down there, we went into Marlborough, and it's quite an affluent area. So lots of people who buy the, you know, houses down there just because they like the, you know, the countryside, and they want to have a second home outside of London or things like that, which is part of the reason why it is so very expensive. But it makes it very interesting when you go to the charity shops, which whenever we go down to Marlborough, we always go into the charity shops because there's a lot of very nice stuff just put in there. There's a lot of people who, you know, they buy clothes and they wear it very, very minimally, and then they just put it out to sell. It's a very strange place. I mean, went into Marlborough on Saturday. We went to have a look at some of the charity shops, and within 10 minutes, Squinks had found a pair of brand new, very, very bright blue jeans that they absolutely loved for £6, that still had the store labels on them, which is just, it's mad. And you've got things like, in one store we had a Cath Kidston bag, a very fancy looking Cath Kidston bag with a rose print on the front, and again, that was about £6. It had barely been used. It's a lovely sort of canvas green bag. And I said to Squinks, well, yes, we might as well pick it up because it looks hard wearing. It looks like it's a good handbag. And if you don't use it, I can. And so we bought it, and then we looked it up on our phones later to find out how much it would be worth if we bought it new, just because we were interested. And it was over £50. And it's being sold now as a vintage style. So I'm guessing in a year or two, it'll be worth an awful lot more than £50, which is kind of mad. But it had barely been used. There were no scuffs, there were no scratches, there were no muddy marks, there were no tears. It's just craziness. People barely using things, and I'm guessing that they, you know, stop using them after they go out of fashion, and they just put it into the charity shop, which is mad. It's something that I don't quite get my head around. I'm glad that they do, so that I can go and find some bargains, but at the same time, I do wonder what else has been bought and tossed aside that could have, you know, gone to a much better use. One of the things we found was some very nice gingham shirts. Now, as I mentioned earlier, having done the chicken scratch on here and on a couple of the other stocking sort of squares, has piqued my interest in doing some chicken scratch again, and I've got an idea of something that I want to do. And there's an awful lot of things I still want to do. I still want to go back to doing some more tie-dye and things, but in this instance I'm thinking about doing something for Halloween. I know we've got Christmas coming up as well, so I could also maybe do some Christmas decorations. I still would like to do my Christmas card making, but I don't think I'm going to get the time this year because it's going to be a bit of a mad year. Like I say, Squinks is starting their GCSEs, so they're end of compulsory school education, but I am going to be, you know, getting more time hopefully to do more stuff for them, and also gearing up for things like doing the waistcoat that they've asked me to do. So yeah, one problem with doing this with all these pins in it, I'm trying to avoid getting any pins in my hands as I'm gathering up the fabric to work on. I do keep pricking myself, but you know, I can live with it. I'm a big girl. Anyway, so that's 20 minutes in. I think I might get about to the end of this thread. I'll finish the rest of this off screen when I've changed my thread. I won't go on to doing more of it later, so I can do something else a bit different, because I'm guessing most of you guys know how to do chain stitch. That one's gone a bit wobbly. What's going on there? Oopsie daisy. But yeah, it's an interesting time of year. It's also an interesting time of life for squinks, most particularly, I think. But yes. Yeah, I think one of the threads has separated itself again. Yeah, it separated itself again. Let's have a look. I think I'm just going to have to live with that one. It's only a little bit, so it shouldn't be too noticeable. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, thinking about what to do for Halloween. And as I say, I bought this gingham shirt. I believe, if I remember rightly, it's red gingham. So that also makes it good for a Halloween kind of thing. And I'm thinking of doing a little bit of clothing alteration for it. I don't know quite what I want to do for the whole thing, but I've got some ideas. And I was thinking of doing a big chicken scratch skull on the back, and then decorate it with maybe some orange flowers or something like that. I don't know yet, but we'll see. When we get to it, we'll know, won't we? At least I will. And I'm really hoping to catch up on some of the other projects that I've left by the wayside too, because I've still got my gold work projects sitting on the table waiting for me to get onto the next bit, which I'm really looking forward to doing. It's just been a bit of a mad dash to get things done over the last month or two, because yeah, summer holidays, end of school year, sorting out family, sorting out trips and all these sorts of things, and then obviously gearing up for Squinks' final year. But we'll get there. We normally do, anyway. Oopsie daisy. I'm going to come to the end of this thread in a second before I get it too short. I don't want to have it frayed ends on the thread, because that means it'll be a little bit weaker. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a second row of stitches going in the opposite direction, just to make it a bit more decorative. I might do those in red though, I don't know. We'll see how we go. We'll get there when we get there. And as always, when I get to the end, I'll post pictures at the end of the video. So just going to tie this one off, and I'll be back in a second. Okay, so I'm back, and I'm just trying to work out what's the next bit I should do. I think what I'll do is I will do a filling out of this holly onto here as well, so I can make it sort of expand. But we'll see how we go. I can do my own holly leaves over there as well. So obviously I'm going to need some green for that. I'm going to get some dark green from over here. There we go. And I will also maybe go over it with some other colours as well later to give it some dimension as well. So I'm going to keep those out separate and see how I go. So this one I'm going to do with 3 strands because I want that density. But we'll see how that goes. I'll try not to make it too long because I don't want to get it all tangled up, because that's my usual way of doing things, isn't it? This one hasn't been used before, you can tell, because I haven't got the multi-levels on here. Normally when I do it, when I cut it, because I use the 3 strands so often, I do snip one on one level and snip the other on the other level, so it's easy to separate it next time I come to it. Doesn't help when I'm doing like 2 strands like I did with the blue, but for everything else, which I do quite regularly, it's quite a handy way of doing it. So, separated a little bit, that's fine. Just means it's going to be easier to thread with. And I've just saw something recently about making the threads lie parallel, which I've never done myself, but I've seen it done on some like Japanese silk embroidery. It looks interesting, and I believe that they use the Mela or their pins or needles to do that with. So I might have a look at doing that in future pieces, just to see if I can make a difference. But I'm not overly worried about doing that because I'm not a fancy fandangly embroiderer. I'm just a hobbyist, as they say, which doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that I don't worry about it being extremely highfalutin, unless I want it to be. And if I do that in the future, then I will. I don't know where I was going with that sentence. I was going all over the place, wasn't I? Sorry about that, guys. As per usual, I was rambling on and talking nonsense. Now, I will use this little leaf over here for a guide for the first few, but then after that, I think I'm gonna break with the pattern and have a go at doing some independently. But we'll see how we go. I keep saying we'll see how we go. You will literally see how I'm going as I'm making, because it'll happen on screen in front of you. Yeah, or something. I don't know. If you understand what I'm talking about, please let me know. Go down in the comments, because I'm talking quite a lot of nonsense again, aren't I? Yep. Oh yeah. Right, so what I was going to try and do is go up to the point here, then put the thing there, almost like a mini couching stitch, and then bring it through, and then do another one that's slightly further in, and then slightly further in on that side, have that coming out next to this one here where I previously stitched, and bring it in. I think that looks pretty good actually. Do another one there, and another one coming in, oops, next to that one there, and stitch through, and then I can start on the next one. Hope you guys can see that. I'll try to make it a bit clearer for you. Maybe I'll bring it down a little bit. Sometimes the colour goes, or the light starts flashing if I get too close, but we'll see. So let's have a look at this one. So going into this point here, I'll come a bit further forward so it's a bit more pointy. In the middle of the curve, I'm not pulling this through too hard, so I keep that curve a little bit like that, and then go in, come back out a little bit further over, so you can see that's come just inside where that one is, just under there, and then have that coming back out next to where I did the previous anchoring stitch. And then another little one. Oops, no, that's the anchoring stitch first. Put that in there, and I don't know if I need to do another anchoring stitch. I think it might be enough there, but we shall see. Yeah, that looks pretty good, because I'm leaving a little bit of a gap just between these two areas. I can use the darker thread, or I can use some browns or something like that to make the variegation on the leaves, because holly leaves are not one colour, are they? They can be dark green, they can be dark green with like pale edges, or they can be with patches of brown, but the veins on them are much darker, aren't they? If you don't know what I'm talking about, feel free to Google, I guess. Yeah, it's just something that I've noticed. And they've got sort of brown on the leaves here, but it's sort of browny green, isn't it? I think it's mostly because they want to have muted colours to highlight the reds of the poinsettia. Yeah, I remembered what this flower was. It's a poinsettia. And I only remembered that as I was looking at loads of poinsettia designs in the quilting shop that I was in Swindon. Oopsie daisy, let's get that unhooked there. I'm going to just quickly add a pin here because it's separating, and again I don't want it to lose the shape of the boot. Have I pinned that? No, that's fine. Okay, so I'm going to bring that over here, and then I'll do this one, and I'll do this one over here, just so I can fill it in as I go. This one's a bit more of a curve, so I'll just take you out again. There we go. And just do the curve on this side. Now, the reason why I did this one first is because I know that it's going off the side here, so I can just start to envelope the edge there, to start to catch the edge to hold it in place. And I will be adding more stitches around the edge here as well, obviously, just to keep it together. There we go. And I think that looks pretty good. Oops, just coming in because I've got quite a few layers there, right next to the previous anchoring stitch. Oops, keep forgetting I need to stitch down the anchoring stitch, which is not ideal. Oops, a daisy, and that's going to go a bit too far, so I might have to just do 2 steps on this stitch. That's fine. There we go. But yeah, so I mean, again, doing Christmas themed, or seasonal themed stitching in the middle of summer is still a bit of a mind boggler. Maybe I'm trying to use some kind of wishful thinking to bring the cold weather back in, please, because it is so very, very warm. Oops, daisy, I managed to go through the same hole I came out. Never mind, so just go back through there. Let's see if I can do that again. There we go, that's better. And then on to the next one, I think, up to here. This one's a bit more of a curve, so that might be a bit more of a challenge. Maybe I'll have to anchor it in 2 places like an actual couching stitch, I don't know. I think that might be a good idea. Let's go over there. Leave it fairly loose. And then I'm going to do a couple of couching stitches here, one here, and that first stitch will guide where the next stitch will lie, I think. Don't want to do too many anchoring stitches because that will make it bobbly, and that's not what we're going for. Try and get it nice and smooth. But yeah, see, there we go, that's perfect. And I think I'm going to need to do something here because there's too much blank space there, I think. So what I'll do is I'll do that. Oopsie daisy. Oopsie daisy. And then I'll do a stitch there, and then a stitch, oopsie daisy, in there, and then stitch into there. Let's see how that looks. That's looking pretty good. It's a bit higgledy-piggledy. There we go, my favourite phrase. But I'm learning and I'm trying something out. So, you know, it's getting there. And the more I do, the better I'll get. So I'm going to do another one going here. This is going to be another big one, I think. And then I've got the one on the tip. I can always reference this one down here because you can see it's the same pattern over there. This one's got a bit more of a curve, but this one's a bit straighter, so I can go my own route with it. Yes. And bring that one up through, oops daisy, there. Do I need multiple couching stitches on here now? I don't think I will actually this time. If I can, I could always come back later and couch it down a bit more tightly, can't I? Yes. Nothing's done until it's done. Wise words indeed, eh? Okay, so I'm kind of tempted to do something similar on the poinsettias, but I don't really want to overdo them because, yeah, I want the fabrics to be the star of the show, not the stitching. But we'll see how we go. There we go. And then this time I'm going to come in this side if I can. Another loud car on that side. They do like letting everybody know that they've got cars in the street. It's very strange. Sometimes you have cars coming in and they like to try and make them backfire so they can make popping noises as they drive. It's a bit weird. And I don't think it's very good for the cars either. Because once it starts making popping noises and starts backfiring, it kind of wants to do it again and again and again, doesn't it? Not ideal at all. But there we go. What do I know? I just like embroidery. Anyway. That brings that one, oops a daisy, up to there. And then I'm going to do, oops a daisy. What I'll do is I'll do the one on the tip first. And then I'll do the filling in bit down here after. So that's going to go up to about there, I'd say, and then through there so that can go to there. Yes, I think it's looking pretty good. What do you think, guys? What would you have done with this? Would you have just done straight stitches and satin stitches, or would you have done couch stitches like this? let me know below. I'm thinking of using some straight satin stitches on some of the patterns. I don't know yet though. We shall see. But like I say, I'm not going to try and do too much stitching. It's mostly how I'm going to join the pieces of fabric together. It's not so much about the stitches, not so much about the decorative stitching. Rather, it's more about how they play with the fabric. I think that's what I'm going for this time. And I'm going to do another stitch over there at my off screen. Not quite, but I'm very close. So shift it over. I'm on this thingy again, this lap tray, but it's a very smooth surface, so sometimes it does make the fabric slide, which is not altogether helpful. But it does mean it doesn't get pins stuck in it and things. But at the same time, I'd quite like to have it a little bit grippy so that I can have the fabric stay in place. Otherwise I'll lose where I'm going and things. And of course it goes off screen as well. Okay, so I think I should get this finished by the end of this video, but we'll see. That goes in there, and then oops a daisy, that comes through, oops, there, and poke through, and then I've just got this little gap here to fill, so I'm not going to do anything too amazing here. I might just do straight stitches there. Actually no, I'll do a carrot stitch on the first one because there's a little tiny curve there, and yep, just a little tiny curve, nothing too fandangly. And then is that going to come back through? Yep, that's fine. Just going to do a quick fill stitch there, and I think that looks pretty good. It's a bit bobbly, but you know, that's fine. I'm going to park this thread over here so I can do the next holly leaf with it, and then I'm going to get the other thread over here, and this time I'm going to use only 2 strands. I'm not going to use too much because I want to get this done before I get to the end of today's video. So there we go. And this is the one of the ones where I was clever enough to leave the DMC label on it so I can know which colour it is. Just pull that through. Not everybody likes DMC, but I kind of like it. It's gets you into a certain mode of thinking, I think. But you know, each to their own. And it's good to use what you have, and it's good to use what works best with you at the end of the day. Yes. Now for this one, I think I'm going to try and do a split stitch or a stem stitch. Which one do you think I should do? I've got about 30 seconds to think of it whilst I thread my needle, but we'll see. With a split stitch, it's going to be interesting because I've only got the 2 strands and I don't want to cut into the actual strands themselves, but we'll see. However, I think a stem stitch might be good because, well, it's holly, isn't it? So it's going to be good to, I'll come from the other end this time. It's going to be good to have that widening. So 4 stem stitch, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong in doing this. Just trying to find the gap between the 2 edges there. Come in, don't pull it all the way through. Try and get between the 2 previous stitches that I did, about halfway. Is that about halfway? Yeah, do it. And then do the same again. Once I'm through this multi-surface layer here, I should be able to do it much more quickly. So bring it over again. And I think we might have a squinks visiting us in a minute. Coming through, so daisy, and there. And this time I'm going to, hello Squingle. Hello. Please excuse Squingle making all the bangs and crashes in the background. There we go. And on we go. So yeah, once you've got the thinner layers, or fewer layers anyway, it's much easier to go back on yourself by pinching the fabric rather than having to go in through the front and out through the back separately, if that makes sense. I'm sure it does make sense. I hope so anyway. I'm really pleased that I found this quilt shop that had all of this extra lovely Christmassiness, because I think it's going to be really good for this project. And there are friendly staff there too. It's you know, I think it's run by a woman and her mother, so it's interesting to find other people who are interested in crafting and things. And I think I'll definitely be visiting in future. I might even see if I can go to one of their workshops, which could be quite a lot of fun. Maybe I'll video it if they let me. But yes, so that's where I am now. Just going to do another couple of quick oopsie daisy. Oh, it's got caught on itself. Let's separate that out first. I think I'm just going to keep stitching and hope for the best. Okay, so yeah, sorry about that. Let's bring this around again. Again, try not to stab myself with the multiple pins that are all over this thing. As I said in previous videos, I do much prefer using clips when I'm doing smaller things, but for big things like this, you kind of have to use pins, otherwise you just aren't going to have everything held in place, and you can't use clips on things that aren't folded or held in place in that way, can you? It's just how it is. There we go. So that's that little bit done, and I think I will be calling it a day there. So just poke my needle and let you have a look at those 2 little bits that I've done so far. And again, I'll be finishing these off screen, so make sure to check the end of the video. And whilst you have a look around, let me know what kind of Christmas crafts have you been starting, and have you been having a go at any crazy quilting or patchwork quilting like mine? What would you have done in this project? I'd love to know. Like I say, leave a comment down below. And whilst you're down there, remember to like and subscribe and all those lovely little things that help a channel like mine to grow. And of course, if you wouldn't mind sharing, that'd be even better. Thank you very much if you do that. And thank you very much for joining me today. Again, thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you in the next video. And bye-bye.